Baby, I got it, got it. Got it, got it. Baby, I got it, got it. Got it, got it.
Welcome you guys to another video. This video is going to be very, very deep. Excuse me for the quality, but I am filming on my iPad. But yeah, this video is going to be very deep, like I said. Basically, I'm going to be telling my testimony. I've told my testimony quite a few times on my channel before, but like, things have occurred over the years more and more, and I really want to share my testimony. One thing I want to say first is God gets the glory. He gets the glory. And I know he's going to get the glory more and more throughout my story, and even throughout you guys. Like, God gets the glory throughout all of our story. And I want you to understand that God loves you. He is there for you. And let's jump into it. So I'm going to read John 1:6-7. That's the scripture I'm going to read. It says, "There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe." Now, this scripture spoke to me a lot. I supposed to been made this video, if you want to be honest. I supposed to been made this video, but I didn't make this was like a month ago when I created this, like the notes for this video. But I've been holding off because I'm a little nervous about sharing like all of my testimony. Yeah, it's just I was a little nervous. Also a little warning or trigger warning. There will be some things in this video about mental health and some deep topics. So that's just a little trigger warning for this video. Disclaimer for this video. But yeah, moral of the story of my testimony is God met me at rock bottom. He met me at rock bottom, and I was at rock bottom, and I've been hit rock bottom plenty of times before within my life. Even after what I went through was a major climax of my testimony, which we'll get into within this video. But let's jump right on in because I'm talking too much. So let's start from the beginning with my faith journey. So I've always had a relationship with God or a relationship with Jesus growing up. I grew up with like a Christian background. I will say that I didn't go to church as much as like you would think, like, or say, or like I guess how you would describe it. I was in church pretty much for like holidays or like family events or things like that, and I wasn't church enough to understand it, but it wasn't like a consistent daily, or not daily, but consistent weekly thing on a Sundays where I'm going to church, or I wasn't in church for Wednesday for Bible study, for weekly Bible study or anything. Like, I was mostly just in church like every now and then. But I did have a relationship with God growing up, and I knew, and I've always praised God since I was a little girl, since I was born, you know. But still, it wasn't, like I said, like consistent. I was reading my Bible from here to there throughout my high adolescence. It did help me a lot. My parents and my mom made sure to keep me, you know, in the loop of understanding who God or who Jesus was. So that pretty much is like my faith journey from here to there. Moving on to my middle and high school years. My middle and high school years was very, very troubling for me. Considering someone, when I was in elementary school, I want to say this, I had a lot of confidence. My elementary school was one of the funnest schools I could think of. I had so much fun in elementary school. Like, it was just like, one thing I do want to say too, I'm always been like an honor roll student or a straight A student when I was in school. You know, I was always that individual who just stuck. I was kind of quiet too, but I wasn't as quiet in elementary school. I really got quiet most towards like middle school and high school. But like I said, throughout all my school years, I was always AB honor roll student or straight A student. Like, that's just something I just stuck to. I was always a person who really wanted to, you know, not necessarily prove anything, but I just loved to get good grades, you know. Like, I just loved that. But in middle school, please excuse me, I'm looking down at my notes, but in middle school, I dealt with a lot of low self-esteem. I went into middle school super confident, then my confidence like shut down. And I want to say that because a lot of things occurred in middle school, like bullying and dealing with a lot, you know, of course, like peer pressure and things like that. Like, I dealt with mainly just a lot of bullying, and then my confidence just like shut down. Like, 6th grade, it was just like a lot of things, and I was ashamed of my appearance. Like, I went in middle school, like I said, confident, but then it shut down. You know how in middle school, like, they you talk about people, or someone is always like talking about you or saying this about you, like he say she say stuff like that. And then someone can say, oh, I don't like your outfit, or your outfit is ugly, or you look ugly, like things like that. You know how some kids in school, that they can be a little mischievous and do different things that are not okay, or not, nice, per se. I'm trying to explain it to the best of my ability, please excuse that. But yeah, middle school, like I said, it was just, I got super quiet. I was ashamed of my appearance. I was scared. I was like very quiet. I got the grades for sure, but my self-esteem, like I started comparing myself to other females. Like moving on into high school, that's when Instagram was like really, really, really popping, and like the Instagram models was popping, and then like YouTube started to start popping, and makeup and stuff like that, which I absolutely love that era. But at the same time, it shut down my confidence. Like when I really got on social media, and it shut down my confidence. Like it shut down my confidence. Like in high school, I dealt with depression. I dealt with, like I said, low self-esteem, to the point where I'm comparing myself to other people. Why this guy wouldn't ask me out, or why I didn't have any friends. That's one thing I do want to mention. I did not have any friends, like late middle school to like all throughout high school, pretty much. Like I think I had a few friends like junior year, maybe like freshman year, but like pretty much throughout high school, I was always the quiet loner girl. Like I wouldn't talk to nobody or anything. And that was very hard for me to deal with, because in high school and middle school, you're supposed to socialize. Don't get me wrong, I did socialize, but it wasn't like to the point to where like outside of school I was hanging out with other people, or it wasn't to the point to where I just had a big gigantic social life. People knew me. I knew other people was like associates or acquaintances, but other than that, it wasn't like a big gigantic thing. Like I had like a best friend, like we was just like this, or anything like that. Like no, no, no. And that really shut me down a lot. And that's one reason why I was so depressed. 'Cause I'm like, all these people out here having fun. They're hanging out after school. They're hanging out on the weekends. They know when homecoming comes around, when prom comes around. I don't really have anyone to hang around with. So it's kind of like, it really hit me like deep. It really hit me deep. But moving on to after I graduated high school, one thing I do want to say is in high school, I got diagnosed with a chronic illness that I still suffer with to this day. It's called hidradenitis suppurativa. I have plenty of videos on my channel about it, but it's a chronic illness where you get boils or lumps in areas that fold underneath the skin. So like, if you're a female watching this video, of course, if you're a male, I'm so sorry, but like under your arms, or just areas that have fold. I'll say that. Like, you can research it if you want to, but men can get it as well. But it's very hard to handle on a daily basis, and it's very debilitating. Very debilitating. And it's painful, it's hurtful. It really like deters or like drops your confidence and your mental health. It affects your mental health so many different ways, and I've gone through it. I dealt with it, and like I said, I got diagnosed at age 16, and I dealt with it since I was like 12 years old. So let's roll it on back. When I was 12 years old, I dealt with one because I got bit by like a insect or a bug or whatever you want to call it. We still don't know what it is to this day. Like I think it was like 10 years old actually. Please forgive me. It was a long time ago, but still, from there on, I kept dealing with it. And then 16, I dealt with a big one, a big abscess underneath my arm that's still kind of open to this day. And then from there on, it just got worse over the years. And that was like almost 10 years ago. So it's just like, your girl be going through it. If you have a chronic illness, I feel you, because I have a chronic illness too. I'm in stage 3. I'm in stage 3 of HS. But yeah, it's really hard to handle on a daily basis. Like I said, I got diagnosed with that chronic illness in high school. So I wasn't in school pretty much my end of junior year to all the way through my senior year. I wasn't pretty much in school. I try to participate in events as much as possible, like senior events or senior prom or, homecoming and all this type of stuff. I try to participate in those things as much as possible. I wasn't really in school because of my chronic illness. I was sick so much. Like I was dealing with so much. So much. And it really, like I said, it deteriorated my confidence. That deteriorated my confidence. I was in the hospital, to doctor's appointments, So moving on to when I graduated high school, I graduated, did really well. One thing I do want to mention, I got accepted into, multiple colleges, dream schools. And I wasn't able to go off to any of them. Like, those schools were, you know, like my dream school. It was like my dream school to go off to college. I wanted to major in not criminal justice, but political science. I wanted to major in political science, and I was not able to do that. I started off in political science, so I ended up going to a community college within my city, and that went well. I went on to get my AA degree like 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm like, I was like, it went well, but some things did occur between those years. But like I said, I wasn't able to go off to college at all when I graduated high school, and that really messed me up. That sent me through a depression. Like, once I graduated high school, I didn't have no friends who were pretty much talking to me when I graduated or anything. I just dipped. I just dipped out of there, like, pretty much. I was like, you know what, I'm done with high school. I don't have any friends. Maybe I'll be able to go off to college eventually, or like attend school so I can at least make some friends in college. Maybe college would be a little bit better for me. Honey, no, 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 no. That was not it at all. I was pretty much bedbound my first year of community college. I had to do everything online because of my HS, because of my chronic illness. It was very painful. It was very hard for me to deal with. And mind you, I do want to mention this too. Throughout my faith journey, it got stronger when I was in high school and my first year of college. It got stronger. It got stronger over the years, period. It always gets stronger no matter what. I believe that. But it is just like, it got stronger because I started prayer journaling. I still have journals of what I was prayer journaling about. But I was prayer journaling. I was, you know, praying to God a lot, reading my Bible a lot, taking notes. I was doing all the things, all of it to help me through my first year of college. The summer after I graduated high school, I was trying to figure out what college I was going to go to. Like I said, ended up going to community college. But like I said, I literally was bedbound the first year of college. And I was like trying my best to, please forgive me if I'm all over the place, but I was trying my best to just be happy and content. But God really helped me through those points. I was so depressed. I remember literally laying in bed, literally doing exams like on a computer, like laying in bed doing exams on a computer. I had no other choice. I had to do everything online. So it was like really hard. I remember literally when it comes to my HS, like just bleeding out from my arm. Like, I know that's kind of graphic, but I remember just bleeding out from my wounds. You know, it was very painful, very hard to handle, very hard to deal with, and thinking about it and still dealing with it to this day. It can mess with your mental, you know, seeing that come from your body. I mean, I understand, like, for a female, we know we see a lot of things already, but at the same time, like, when you see something like, when it comes to HS, it's very hard on a daily basis. Like, if you have HS, you have to have HS to understand, but on the outside, we look okay, but underneath our clothes, we're dealing with so much, and it's painful to walk, to do anything on a daily basis. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard. It's really hard. But like, God, and another thing I do want to say, there's no cure for this disease, but regardless, I believe that there will be a cure, and that Jesus heals all. Like, God is going to heal me, and he's going to heal all of us HS warriors out here. I believe that fully. And like, my college years, like I said, I was like dealing with a lot. I do want to say that my first year of college, I dealt with a health scare. I was dealing with a lot of female issues when it comes to like menstrual cycles, like, you know, and pain and like lots of bleeding. I became anemic, so I had a health scare one day when I was like about to go to sleep at 12 o'clock at night, 12 a.m. in the morning at midnight, and I got really scared. Not really scared, but it was a scary moment because like I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like, my chest was pounding, and I really like was like clutching, and my heart was racing. I just was not feeling good. It was like dropping. Like, I just could not feel, like my chest felt numb. Like, it was like a very scary feeling for me. And they took me to the hospital, and it turns out that my blood count got really low to like 7 point something. Like 7 point something. It was really low. So I had to get a blood transfusion. They kept me overnight and all those types of things. And then this is when we get into the parts that were like deep. That took a toll on my health, on my mental health, I mean, because like I was in a hospital, and hospitalizations in general, if you know what I mean, like, you know what I mean. Being in the hospital took a toll on your mental health. Being in the walls of the hospital is very scary. Getting poked with a needle is not good for your mental health. It's not good for your mind. Like, it's gonna take a toll on you. But yeah, like, it was very hard. And I remember they put me on a birth control for my bleeding, to stop the bleeding. And pretty much like a month to 2 months after, things began to decline worse when it comes to me mentally. I was dealing with it already when I was in the hospital, and I was dealing with it for the months going forward, but I was dealing with a lot of like anxiety, like real, real bad crippling anxiety. Like I would be bursting into tears, and I'd just be scared for no reason. Now, moving on to after that, they put me on another birth control. I was trying to figure out things about different medications they could put me on to try to help me with the bleeding, because the bleeding actually did not stop. I had breakthrough bleeding, or just bleeding out in general. Like, it did not stop. It stopped for a little bit, but then it kept going. But this anxiety was so bad to the point to where I was like jittery. I was like having like heart racing and like feeling like I can't breathe. It was very, very hard to handle. This makes me a little emotional a little bit, because like I said, I was dealing with crippling anxiety. I could barely eat, I could barely do anything, I couldn't sleep. I was just so scared. Then it led to, and I was crying out a lot, like I said before too, and then it led to these dark emotions, these dark thoughts. It led to suicidal thoughts. But because of the suicidal thoughts, or what led to the suicidal thoughts, was these dark emotions about harming others. Something that I would never do. Something that I never dealt with within my life before. Mind you, this is where we talk about mental health a lot, because I never dealt, or I didn't even have an urge to even, like, I never felt that, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I just did not want that. I did not want those thoughts. It was just random thoughts that just come through my mind, and it'll scare me so bad to the point to where I would literally be so fearful and so scared to the point to where I'm like, why am I having these thoughts? So I got so anxious, so scared, and that's why I started having suicidal thoughts. I was scared that it would happen. And not only that, it just really got to me, because I'm like, why am I having these thoughts? Why am I having these thoughts about that? Or where is it coming from? I'm not a mean person at all. I don't have anything against anybody. I was like, I remember I was like focusing mostly on school. I was focusing mostly on getting like good grades. I remember I had made the dean list that summer. I was so like, excuse me, I'm so sorry. It makes me emotional, and it's hard for me to think and grasp what I was dealing with, because like I said, I was trying my best to just hold it on and hold it all in. I wasn't telling nobody what I was really going through. I remember my first suicide attempt, which I did have. I had my first suicide attempt at the beginning of that summer, and pretty much it was because of my anxiety. That was the first tip. It was because of my anxiety. And they let me go home. Of course, I got big wrecked and went all through the process and everything, but they let me go home. But shortly after that is when I started having those dark emotions and those dark thoughts about, like I said, about others. Something I would never do, like I said before, and it was just really hard for me to handle. Really hard for me to deal with. I didn't want to tell anyone because I was scared. I was scared that they would do something and look at me as a bad person. Look at me as a person who is like, crazy or something. And I was just like, like, I'm scared. Like, I don't want to tell anyone these type of thoughts that I'm having. It's bad enough I'm having suicidal thoughts, but I don't want to tell them about these thoughts because I don't have anything against anyone. I don't know why I'm having these thoughts. They're just coming out of nowhere. They're coming out of nowhere. Just like go through my mind, and like it'll stick. Like it'll just stay there in my mind, and it'll make me so scared and so anxious. To the point to where I'm just like, oh my goodness, why am I thoughts still there? Is this really true? Am I like, it's like almost like, it makes you like literally about to lose it, go insane. So then 2 weeks later, and throughout this whole entire time, I want to be thankful. I'm thankful and grateful. I want to say this too, that there were family members, family friends, even nurses, even doctors who were there for me through it. There were some things that did occur that were, some were not as friendly, but at the same time, there were multiple, and the majority of all of them were very, very kind. And they helped me through it, and they got me through it. So, like I said, 2 weeks later, I attempted it again. I attempted suicide again. I tried to take my own life again. And then what led to that, like I said, was those dark emotions and those dark thoughts, and of course anxiety and a little bit of depression from my HS and from what I was dealing with overall in general. Like the whole situation, what I was dealing with, I was just very scared and very scared. Like I was just like, okay, I can't deal with this. No. So I did do something. I overdosed. And basically, all three of my suicide attempts were overdose. There were 3 suicide attempts, but the second one was very hard. It was very hard on my body. Basically, I went to the hospital. I got called to call the ambulance. This time, like again, well, the first time I went to the ER, but just like drove there. My mom drove me there. But this time, the ambulance came and got me. And basically, you know, like I said, I got back corrected again. But when I got there is when I got into ICU because I don't even want to say it, but the pills that I took, they were, you know, causing me to have allergic reaction and, you know, all these different things. So, and I wasn't able to stand up, you know, and things like that. So they didn't pump my stomach, but what they did do is they put me on a whole bunch of tubes or IV. And basically, I remember when I was in the ICU, they took me up to ICU from the ER. I remember I just felt like I couldn't breathe. And I told the lady, I said, I can't breathe. And then a whole bunch of nurses came in. I think they called a code or something, what they call within the ER, with not the ER, but the ICU, the hospital codes. They called it, and a whole bunch of nurses came in, started putting on gloves. A nurse came up to me, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna go to sleep, okay? I'm gonna put this through the IV. You're gonna go to sleep." And next thing you know, I was out. I don't remember from there on because I was out. You know, they sedated me. So they sedated me I was sedated for a few days, and then my mom said they were working on me, that everybody was praying, and, you know, the nurses were praying for me, they were rooting for me. I remember nurses came up to me when I woke up, they were like, "We were rooting for you, we were praying for you," and they were there for me. And I'm so grateful for that. Very grateful. And I woke up in ICU, and I just like woke up and was like, oh my God, I literally woke up smiling. Like, that's why I think that's a huge blessing. Because even when I was going through what I was going through, I still woke up smiling. I woke up smiling. That's what people were telling me, and I couldn't feel it. Of course, I was so alert when I woke up. That was like a blessing, and like so blessed. I'm blessed to have been so alert when I woke up from that sedation. But I woke up, I was smiling. I remember I woke up talking about some Netflix show. I was like, basically like, oh my goodness, like the girl, she was like, the nurse was like asking me questions, like, oh, cause I think I overheard. Let's get this straight. I think I overheard when I was sedated. I was about to wake up. I started moving. I remember feeling my hands moving, you know, and I remember hearing them talking about a Netflix show, and I remember like saying different things. Anyway, this is going off topic, but just know I woke up and was very, very alert, and people were clapping, and they were like so happy to see that I was like, you know, able to like wake up, you know, and you know, they took the tube out of my mouth and I was able to talk, and I was like, what day is it? And they were like, it's Wednesday. Like, you know, because I was like, I think I did it on like that Monday, and then I woke up that Wednesday. But I was like, it's Wednesday. I was like, I've been out for that long? You know, I was only 19 years old. You know, I was just like, it was such a beautiful thing because like God really put angels around me to help me get through what I was dealing with and to like save my life. God saved my life. The doctor saved my life, and those nurses and doctors were there for me round the clock and were like working on me and making sure. I remember I was on like a feeding tube. I was on oxygen. I had a whole bunch of IVs and tubes all over me. And I remember I woke up and they said I could eat. And then I don't know if I could eat that same day. I think that day I was still on the feeding tube and they were still doing like food in the, you know, things like that. And they had to give me like organic food, like the feeding tube, because had so many allergies. So they had to keep giving me like the food in the tube. I'll put some pictures here just in case. But yeah, they were so amazed, and I was amazed myself. But then I remember like a day or two later, they said I could eat. And I remember like the nurse was like helping me eat. Like she was like feeding me mashed potatoes and things like that. Cause my hands were like very puffy from all the fluids and things like that. I remember I had to get on the walker for like the whole time I was in the hospital. Those 2 weeks, I had to get on the walker because my feet was, my whole body was like puffy because I was really tiny at the time. And you know, I was on a walker. I show a video of that too. I was on a walker trying to learn how to walk, and because you know, like from all what I had went through, that was trauma from that overdose was kind of like trauma to my body. I'm grateful for where I'm at right now, honey. We'll get to that later. I'm grateful for where I'm at, but yeah, that was really hard, and I remember crying after those 2 weeks being there. But the 2 weeks being there was a great experience at the hospital. Nurses were there for me. They were supporting me. Some things that did not go as planned, and like little things that did occur, but Like I said, I'm grateful for the nurses and the doctors that saved my life. I'm grateful that God was there. And yeah, so the whole time I was there, doctors were helping and things like that. Family members were coming out there visiting me, and things like that. I was still dealing with the same stuff. I did not tell the doctors the main thoughts that I was having because I was scared again. I was scared. So I remember I had to go to a mental health facility, and I was really scared to go to the mental health facility to begin because I had never been to one. The first time that I actually got bigger at it, they kept me at the hospital because of my chronic illness. And they wanted to manage my wounds. Well, the second time, I had to go to a mental health facility that actually could accommodate my wounds. It was in another city. And that was like 45 minutes to an hour drive. And I was so afraid to even be away from my family. I remember crying when they had to take me there and from the hospital. And it was very hard. I was crying. I was in tears. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go through this. That's one thing I want to say too. The reason why I did try to attempt suicide or commit suicide is because at the end of the day, I did not want to go through the process of going to a mental health facility. This is the stigmas with mental health. I was afraid that if I did tell them what I was dealing with mentally, that they would lock me up in a mental health facility and I would stay there completely. I was afraid to even go through that process. So instead of me telling people what I was dealing with, I was ashamed and scared. So I decided to take the route of trying to take my own life, which is not the way to go. I know now, but that was very tough for me to handle. And I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I can't keep handling this anxiety and these thoughts. But back to what I was saying, when I went to mental health facility for the second time after that, not second time, but for the second time, the second attempt, I went to a mental health facility for the first time. That was just traumatic. There are people in there that are way worse off than me. And when I say way worse off, I mean they weren't even clear in their head. Some were on drugs, some were, just out of it. I was alert, and I'm grateful, it just shows to know that people are really out here going through stuff, and I do pray for anyone out here who might be struggling with mental illness or any type of mental disorder, whatever it might be for you, even physical, like chronic illness, whatever, physical illness, whatever it might be for you. I do pray for you in the name of Jesus that God heals you, heals your mind, heals your body. But like I said, that mental health was very traumatic. And I didn't stay there very long. I stayed there for like one night. And then they were able to, I was able to go home. My family came and got me. But that was a traumatic experience. I was so scared. So scared. I remember sitting there crying. I was like, people were coming in. They were just like you could just tell like they were not okay mentally. But yeah, it was very hard for me to handle. And, in a mental health facility, they pretty much like let you color, or like you have like group meetings, and they let you watch TV, but you do have to go to bed at a certain time and things like that. Then I let a month go by of that July. I was still dealing with what I was dealing with. It was anxiety and those thoughts. I was scared to tell anybody, so I didn't tell anybody until later on the next month when I attempted suicide for the third time. And I tried overdose again. I did take them. But luckily those pills were expired and they didn't do anything to me. Those pills didn't do anything to me. And, I went to the hospital. They Baker acted me, but prior to being Baker acted, my mom or my parents, my family, they drove me to the hospital. And I was so shaky and I was so nervous. I was like, you know what? I'm done with having these thoughts. I pretty much don't want to be here. So I walked into the ER with my mom. She was holding my hand. She was gripping my hand because I guess she could tell like I was not okay. So I kept trying to move away from her because I pretty much, this is what I was thinking. I was thinking like, you know what, if I can just like get out of the ER and go run off somewhere, then maybe I'll just try to get hit by a car or something. That was literally what the thoughts that were going in my mind. Like you could tell I was like not okay mentally. I wasn't okay mentally the whole entire process of this whole situation. But I remember I let go of my mom's hand when she was in the ER trying to check me in, and they were trying to Baker at me, and I ran off out of the ER and took off and basically was trying to get hit by a car. And I ran off and like through the area of the ER, and I was trying to run through the parking lot to get to the street so I can get hit by a car. And luckily and thankfully, and what a blessing, that was an angel from God. I didn't even see him no more. This patient, he had an IV in his arm and everything. He was a man, or a young man, And he came and he wrapped his arms around me and he grabbed me as I was running. I was literally about to take off towards the hill and get over the hill so I can get off and go into the street. My mom, my sister were trying to run and trying to help me to just try to grab me, just to get me from running. They were just like trying their best. And that was so traumatizing. And I still feel kind of shameful for, putting my family through what they went through with me. But, sometimes, I still feel kind of guilty for that, but I was kind of not okay mentally, and sometimes things, happen when it comes to that. But I remember literally like the patient wrapped his arms around me. He's like, I was like, I'm fine. And he was like, can't let you go, mama. I can't let you go. And then my mom was like, thank you. Because, like, they got the wheelchair and they put me in a wheelchair. And they took me in and big-erected me. And I told my mom when they put me in the hospital and they big-erected me and they sent me to a hospital room. And my mom couldn't stay with me that time. They didn't allow her to stay with me. And I had to be there overnight. I remember telling my mom, I was like, can you please tell the person or try to find the person who saved me? Like, I'm really grateful that he saved me. Like, throughout this whole entire time that I was dealing with what I was dealing with mentally, I was still alert enough to pray to God. I was still alert enough to, praise God through it. Because I remember being on my knees in the room, praying to God, telling him that I don't like what I'm dealing with, God. I need your help. What is going on with my mind? Because I knew something was not right when it comes to that. And a lot occurred, but at the same time, it's just, I remember being in a hospital room after the third time of trying to do that. And I remember like I said, my mom couldn't stay, so I had wrote her a note, literally, saying I'm sorry and that I'm so sorry I did that, what I had did trying to run out the ER and things like that. I told her I'm sorry. I just wrote her like a loving message and told her that I just wrote her a loving message note. She still has it to this day. I don't know where it is, but she still has it to this day. But it was like a beautiful note. But the whole time I was in the hospital for those 2 times, the second time and the third time doing that, I remember chaplains coming up to the room, talking to me, and I remember just praying to God because I wanted closure. I wanted a cure for this. I wanted hope for this. I wanted Jesus to heal me. Because I was like, I can't keep going through this. I can't keep doing this, and I cannot. I want hope. I want peace. Mainly peace and joy. But, yeah. Also, too, like I said, the chaplains were coming up there. They were praying for me, praying with me. And I got sent to another mental health facility. And, that mental health facility was a better experience. It was still kind of tough to deal with, but it was a better experience. I pretty much stayed there for a week. And they put me on medication for depression. I got diagnosed with depression, anxiety. And they put me on medication for that. And I'm just very grateful that I survived all 3. And God saved me. He did. I'm very grateful. That was a better experience. Now after all of that took place, that's when 2020 happened and everything else that happened in 2020. If you guys know, with the sicknesses and the illness, all that stuff happened. But throughout the years, I graduated my AA degree in psychology because I wanted to major in psychology. I changed my major 3 times, for political science and mass communications. I want to go to a motivational speaking journey. I wanted to go on a motivational speaking journey, which I'm still on. I am a motivational speaker, might as well say. I'm not trying to like gloat or anything, but that's my goal, was to be a motivational speaker and to help people and encourage people for the rest of my life with my story and my journey with mental health and all of the above. And I decided to study psychology at the end, and I got my AA degree in psychology. And I was grateful, and I graduated, and I went to graduation and everything from my community college. And I remember that same year, I went into the hospital for an infection for my HS. And it's happened like 2 to 3 times in the last few years. I've had an infection or had to be in the hospital because of an infection from my HS. Like last year, I was in a hospital because of my HS, like an infection. I kept getting a fever, 103 fever. I remember 2022, I had 103 fever. I could barely breathe, literally. And it was like a tough moment for me. There were times even last year and even year before where I was in the hospital and I would be like crying and praying to God, why am I going through this? You kept me here, so why am I still going through pain? But you're not exempt from pain in life in general. You're not exempt from life's trials and challenges and trials and tribulations. You're not exempt from life struggles. And I'm learning that. I learned that over the years. Like, just because you like you're not exempt from it regardless. So yeah, being in the hospital, like I said, could take a toll on you, and it's very hard. And I still struggle with HS to this day. So moving forward, I still struggle with HS to this day. It's still painful. I'm struggling to this day. You can see a little gauze. I don't know if you can see the tape, like from on my arms. Like, that's from my wounds. I still deal with it to this day. So yeah, God gets the glory. Because that could have been the end for me, and that could have went another way. What I went through throughout my life. In all aspects. Not just the suicide thing, with my age, everything. Suicide was like the climax of it all, but it could have went another way. But God allowed beauty from it. Beauty from the ashes. He allowed a rainbow from the rain and sunshine from the rain. Or sunshine from the storm. Excuse me. He allowed it. He allowed me to be here, and I'm very grateful. God gets the glory. He gonna get the glory. Like, I was saved by the King of Kings. God helped me through it. So I hope you guys are encouraged. I hope you are hopeful to understand that no matter what you're going through, mentally, emotionally, physically, that God is there. God met me at rock bottom. I thought that was so rock bottom to the point to where I'm just like what? Like, how can I even get out of this? This is the end for me. This is the real end for me. No, it wasn't. What you think is the end for you is actually the beginning. It's a part of your story. It's a chapter, honey. Like, you're going to get through it. Like, I make all these encouraging videos because I want people to understand that you can get through with God by your side. I've been through it. I've hit rock bottom. I know what it's like to be at the bottom of the rock. I know what it's like to feel like you can't get through what you're dealing with. Like, you don't know how you're going to get to the next day. You can barely eat. You can barely function. The depression and anxiety can be so real. But we have a God who is real as well. And He gonna help you overcome it. He gonna overcome it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you guys. Thank you for 900, I think, and 50 something subscribers, 57 subscribers. I'm grateful. Grateful for you all and all your encouraging messages. I see them. I see them. I see them. And I see you, and God sees you. He loves you. He's there for you. I'll see y'all in the next one.